Sports Shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcall.dt. Hoping you're having yourselves a tremendous morning this morning on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Once again, mixlr.com/wakeupcall.dt and on wakeupcall.dt.com. You're listening worldwide. You are watching worldwide on the Facebook, facebook.com/live-now-dt, and on youtube.com/wakeupcall.dt. All of it is inside of the Cafe Kubal studio. Shout out to Cafe Kubal. Warm yourself up today as it's rainy and it's cool. Make sure you grab yourself a coffee, a chai, some tea at Cafe Kubal, and of course their amazing sandwiches, the Upstate, my favorite. And you could get all of their desserts. I got a chocolate chip cookie that I got earlier on in the week that I kind of hid from myself in the house as a little treat today. So I'll be eating that chocolate chip cookie from Cafe Kubal, which is fantastical. So make sure you get yourself out to Cafe Kubal today and support local. Inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', PJ and I are poppin' in hour number 1. He's been off for a couple weeks. We have missed him tremendously, and he's back. And you know what? I think what he did is he was just waiting for Jaguars free agency to start. That's what I think PJ was doing. He took some time off. He did some research. Maybe he made a call or two to Urban Meyer. And now we're here to speak on the Jacksonville Jaguars movement. And in hour number 2, we will have a conversation of the entire country as Mike Sofka, who's typically with me every Wednesday, is joining me today for wall-to-wall football. Made sense to have him come right after Papa Joe and I talk about the Jaguars free agent frenzy, because we'll be covering the entire NFL's free agent frenzy and the fantasy football implications of that. We'll be going division by division, writing out to you in real time on the board who has been taken and who has been re-signed by each team, and we'll be doing it, like I said, division by division. So all the teams, all 32 teams will be discussed today on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. So buckle up and get your pen and pad ready, because it's about to get real. With that being said, the man who is in the ear of Urban Meyer is here today. PJ, how we doing today?
Urban, huh?
Yeah.
Well, I wish I had Urban's money.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure he's doing okay for himself, as most of these coaches are. What's going on down in Florida, PJ?
Well, I've been out of touch for a while. Apologize for that. 2 weeks ago, I had to go to Jacksonville again for doctor's appointments and MRIs or CAT scans, whatever the hell I had to do. And last week, I had a car club deal in Palm Coast that was fun to go to and fun to listen to. I haven't seen some of those guys in a while, so it's okay. We don't do that very often. And my buddy had bought a 57 Plymouth Fury convertible that was restored to perfect condition, and we got a kick out of looking at that and having him explain how it was done and everything. So, but I got my cars here. I'm starting to move around a little bit better. MT is trying to chase me out of the house, get some things done. Actually, today, she's going to help me organize my garage since it's a mess, because I haven't done anything to it. So, Mary and I'll have fun with that after lunch.
That coming here from Papa Joe this morning as he is enjoying, obviously, his time out there. It's nice to hear that you're moving around more and getting some things done around the house, and that Mary's putting you to work. I like that a lot. So
I have to tell you that I have a little addition here to the family. And if you can visualize me sitting at the kitchen table, Mary and I had bought a under-the-table, what do you call these things? Elliptical. A little baby elliptical. It's not a baby elliptical, maybe 2 feet long and a foot wide or something like that. And
yeah.
And while I'm reading, which I do profusely all day long, and I can sit here and do my elliptical. So I get 20, 30 minutes in there. And we hope that it helps my mobility, which I have a serious problem with. But we're going to keep going with it, and we're going to hope that it does the job for me. It's kind of cute, but it works. Damn Chinese could put anything together, Daniel.
So, Papa Joe here with us this morning on Wake Up Call. We got a lot of stuff to unpack on the Jacksonville Jaguars and the decisions that these Jaguars have been making. So, the Jacksonville Jaguars are doing some interesting things, bringing some guys back onto the team. So we have a lot to cover in Duval. So we'll be doing that this morning in hour number 1 inside the Cafe Kubal studio. So Papa Joe, let's get started with some of the people that the Jacksonville Jaguars have decided to bring in. Tyson Alu was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I jokingly brought him up in recent history. This is like God's humor to me. I mean, it's crazy. I don't believe in coincidences. I just brought up the fact that when Tyson Alu out of UCLA, defensive end, when he was drafted by the Jacksonville Jaguars, he was drafted, I believe, like 7th, and Mel Kiper, who knows everybody, he didn't seem to know anything about Tyson Alu. And when they panned to him and they showed Mel Kiper on the screen and the Jaguars making this selection, I don't think he was ready for it, nor was any of the fan base, I believe. And he just stared at the camera for a good 3 to 4 seconds, which is very unlike him. And so I made a joke of, hopefully Jacksonville won't draft somebody where they make Mel Kiper stare at the camera like he did with Tyson Alu, and then lo and behold, Tyson Alu is now back on the Jacksonville Jaguars, so they've essentially selected him twice. What are your thoughts about them drafting him and it kind of being a shock at how high they drafted him? They kept him for a little while, they used him in the defensive line rotation, and now the Urban Meyer staff has decided that Tyson Alu, after spending time away from Jacksonville, should come back to Jacksonville. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't remember him playing all that well when he was here. I do remember the draft, though. And he went to the Steelers. I guess he did some good things there, but he's a flip-flop guy. He can play tackle or end, and he can be very productive up front. I think he'll probably just be maybe a spot player. I don't know if he's going to break the starting lineup. He could. Maybe he's gotten better from the Steelers, but when you talk
As we look to the future, Visa is committed to supporting Black-owned small businesses, ensuring our communities don't just recover, they thrive.
Now more than ever, where you shop matters. So help the home team by shopping local with Visa.
He was here then. I'm not sure he was either. But, Urban is he's looking at everyone, each person individually, their style of play, their productivity.
Steve, are the Bills still the favorite now after watching these last 48 hours of free agency in the East?
He thinks this man can help the interior
Andrew,
line.
I don't see how they can't be. I mean, they're still the best team. They still got the best quarterback in the division. He's ascending. You look at the roster, and I thought yesterday's, the move that they're making for Emmanuel Sanders to get him was so slick, because here the Bills are just kind of watching the Patriots stack up, the Dolphins make some subtle moves, and the Bills were able to re-sign their linebacker Matt Milano and 2 offensive linemen, John Felipe.
It was strange to me to do that. Carlos Hyde, another guy who Jacksonville had. Now, mind you, remember that Carlos Hyde was the only good thing about the San Francisco 49ers a few years ago, and Hyde has been all over the place. He was with the 49ers. He came to Jacksonville for a hot minute, left. He's been in Cleveland. He has been with Kansas City. He's been with Seattle, and now he's back in Jacksonville. This man has been a journeyman, and he's been in a lot of places since he left Jacksonville. In some minds, he was going to stay in San Francisco forever. But what are your thoughts about the fact that they tried the Carlos Hyde project? It didn't work out. Granted, their offensive line, almost everybody was injured, and now this staff has decided to bring Carlos Hyde back for some depth behind James Robinson.
This one's a puzzle for us, Daniel. I have no idea why they did this. Hyde has been around. He's been 5 different teams in 7 or 8 years. But he's still only 30 years old. Perhaps maybe they think he's got a couple of years good left in. But I don't see this going anywhere. Matter of fact, I don't think he's going to make the team. I don't know why they did that, but I guess they got him on a cheap. $2,250,000 currently with a $14 million for a guarantee. So, if they cut the guy, give him $1 million for and hit the road. Urban must have seen something in this guy that perhaps maybe he's useful. He's still only 30 years old, so maybe he can be functional. I don't. This one was a puzzle. I don't see this one at all, Daniel.
Yeah, I mean, this is yet another confusing move by the Jacksonville Jaguars to have all this money, $74.9 million. You know, sometimes it's dangerous for people to, certain people, it's dangerous for them to have a lot of money because they'll spend it foolishly. And my hope is that Jacksonville is not one of those teams and that they don't do that. Just because you got it doesn't mean you have to spend it. And Jacksonville has been in a place right now where, you know, they bringing back Tyson Alu, who wasn't a phenom on the team, was confusing. And bringing back Carlos Hyde, who never seemed to fit. And maybe that's because the line was injured. But, you know, James Robinson did a lot with a line that wasn't fully healthy. So, you know, and James Robinson, to me, I mean, this guy was, you know, right there. He was in the final 5 as Rookie of the Year. So, you know, I don't know what the need is for Hyde, and I don't know what the need is for Tyson Alu, but they're both back in Jacksonville, and Urban Meyer will get a crack at him. I mean, do you think it's like it's Urban proving that there was talent that was here that wasn't used properly? I mean, how do you look at it?
Well, that's a good point, but, you know, the area down here is really on pins and needles, waiting for the team to get together, start practicing, start gelling, and see what we have. But you know, he as I've told you before about Urban, he works to the beat of his own drum, and he does his own thing. And he's got a good partner with Trent, and let's see what they can do. These first 2 free agents that we talked about are really an enigma for me. I don't know how good they're going to be. First 2, maybe they'll be just back up spot play, but I don't get it. So I hope he does.
You know, it's very, very strange what we're seeing right now in Jacksonville and these decisions that have been made up to this point with those 2 guys. But we'll see. You know, maybe he saw something in them. Maybe there's something about them. Maybe he was paying closer attention than we thought he was. And when he was looking back at the sheet said, you know, I can't believe that, you know, these guys were here and they didn't do this and they didn't do that and they didn't use them for this. Who knows? But we're in a position right now where Jacksonville needs all the help that they can get, coming off of a season where they won their opening game and nothing after that. So it'll be definitely something to see if they can get something more out of these guys that we weren't getting before. Another guy going to Jacksonville, they got a couple wide receivers coming in. Jamal Agnew came from the Detroit Lions. Not a ton on him. I mean, obviously he wasn't one of their star guys. What do you think about them bringing in depth with a guy like Jamal Agnew, and how much do you know about this guy? Because, you know, Laviska Shenault is already in Jacksonville, D.D. Westbrook and company, and they bring in another young guy, 26 years old.
That I can see. I can see. I think this kid's going to be very productive. I think he's got a tall, high upside. I think he's going to fit in well. Hope he's got some speed. But we'll see. When you got a big, tall quarterback and we're flinging the ball around, so I'm hoping that this one works out. I like this one better than anything we've talked about so far, and maybe even for the whole day. I like this kid a lot.
You know, and it's funny how Jamal Agnew comes in from Detroit, almost looks like a package deal, because not only is he coming from Detroit as a wide receiver to Jacksonville, but so is Marvin Jones Jr. He's 31 years old. He is, to me, a great fantasy wide receiver. He's able to pull in points, which means he's doing good things in reality, or else it wouldn't be translating to fantasy. What are your thoughts about them bringing in a veteran who's been on a couple teams, been on Cincinnati, he's been on Detroit, but Marvin Jones Jr., a very serviceable wide receiver, and a guy who's been in the league for a minute and can obviously give some experience, hopefully give some veteran leadership, and obviously what he's been able to do on the field, he can give some production as well.
Oh, yeah, I like this kid a lot, too. He's 31 years old, but he's still very productive. I think he had, something like 6 TDs last week or something like that. But he's going to fit in really good. You know, it's good to have some of these older guys come in and try to teach some of the younger guys some things. You know, the Laviska is going to have some really strong support around him this year. especially with Bourbon himself, new coaches, and some veterans that are coming in like this guy. So I like it. I like this move too.
And there's another wide receiver coming in after spending some time with Andrew Luck with the Colts. He went on to the New England Patriots to spend time with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. And that's Philip Dorsett, a wide receiver coming from the Patriots. What are your thoughts on that?
I've seen Dorsett play before, and I like him. He's a spot starter, but he can carry a game for maybe a half or so. Really good out of the backfield, catches the ball out of the backfield, blocks well. This is a good signing. I like this one a lot too. The three wide receivers that we got, they're okay. They're okay. I think they're going to fit in well. We got to remember, just because they're signing all these guys doesn't mean they're going to actually make the team. There's probably going to be some of these guys are going to be casualties, but I don't look for this guy being a casualty. I think he's going to hang around. Philip Dorsett, a good player.
Yeah, we look at the fact that Jamal Agnew was used very sparingly in Detroit, which was vastly different than Marvin Jones and how he was utilized in Detroit. So sparing for Jamal Agnew, which could be good because there's not a lot of film out there on him, so to speak, and what he's done lately. Marvin Jones, quite the opposite. Marvin Jones was just shy of 1,000 yards receiving. He had 9 touchdowns this past season, 978 yards, 76 receptions, which is the most he's ever had in a season. So he's playing his best football right now, receptions-wise, and then yardage-wise. Back in 2017, he had 1,101 yards. He's had 4 seasons of 9 touchdowns or more. 3 of those 4 seasons have happened in the last 4 years. So he had 10 touchdowns back in 2013-14 with the Bengals, and in the 2017-18 season, 19-20, and 2021, he's had 9 touchdowns in each of those seasons. So in 3 of his 4 seasons with the Lions, most recently, 9 touchdowns. So a lot to be said about that. Also, 3 of those 4 seasons, he had at least 60 receptions in that season. So Marvin Jones coming to Jacksonville with a lot of output and getting back to close to 1,000 yards, as well as the fact that the best ball he played was in Detroit, and their team as a whole and their offense obviously struggled. They had Matty Stafford, but that was not a team that was doing that well. So for Marvin Jones to put up those numbers on a struggling team says something about what he's capable of doing as he comes to a team that has been struggling as well. And then Philip Dorsett, just to take a look at what his numbers have looked like in his career, especially most recently. Dorsett was used in the Patriots offense this past season before this past season, 2019-20, he had 5 touchdowns and 397 yards. He had 3 touchdowns the season before that. And so he's a guy that kind of helps out. He's not big on reception-wise. He lives in the world of kind of 30 receptions a season. He lives in the world of, 300 to 500 yards receiving. So, he is used, but he's never been the main guy, and he won't be the main guy in Jacksonville. So I like that Philip Dorsett is there with Marvin Jones, bringing that veteran leadership to the guys that are already there. And that creates some depth with the Jacksonville Jaguars as we look at their, depth chart. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming into this season with Philip Dorsett and Jamal Agnew, as well as Marvin Jones Jr. Remember, folks, you're adding that into what Jacksonville already has, which is DJ Chark, as well as Laviska Shenault and Colin Johnson, who stepped up a little bit. Trey Quinn is there. He was Mr. Irrelevant, drafted out of SMU, and he's a better wide receiver than people give him credit for. So there's a lot to be said in D.D. Westbrook about, Jacksonville, what they have. Now they have a nice balance, PJ, of youth and experience.
That's an awful lot of wide receivers you're trying to fit into the game.
Yeah.
That's why I'm thinking that some of these people are not going to make the squad. But if he wants to load up on wide receivers like this, I don't have a problem with it because Urban is offensive minded.
Yeah.
If he gets his kid Lawrence and teaches him the right fundamentals and everything with his quarterback coach and offensive coordinator, he can spread the ball around a lot. One thing I remember from my talks last month was was I going to say? Gosh almighty. Kyle Trask, when he was at Florida, there were times when he would complete something like 7 out of 9 passes, and all 7 went to different receivers. That's what Urban's going to be doing. He's going to be using these guys coming out of the backfield. They could even line up in a backfield. So I'm looking for a lot of productivity from these guys based on what Urban's done before.
Yeah, and we'll look to see exactly how he's going to work these guys out, as everybody, like you said, is chomping at the bit at the opportunity to see the Jacksonville Jaguars on the field and practicing and doing their thing. Before we take a step aside for a fast break, here with Papa Joe in hour number 1, he joins us from the Sunshine State, and as the NFL free agent frenzy continues, we talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars in hour 1, and in hour number 2, we will talk about the entire league. So we're giving you a little feel for the Sunshine State and Duval, and then Mike Sofka and I are going to blow everything up and really give you a look at what the country is, just zoom out and see it all. So Cam Robinson and Tyler Shatley, 2 offensive linemen they decided to keep. Cam Robinson, I don't agree with this at all. If it works out and he stays healthy, and I know he's from Alabama and I like interviewing him and I know he's used to winning, but they gave him the franchise tag. And what are your thoughts on them keeping Cam Robinson, their left tackle, as well as Tyler Shatley, who's played all over the line when there's been injuries, so he's actually been a serviceable backup. What are your thoughts on these 2 guys staying with the team and the fact that Cam Robinson received the franchise tag?
Well, they were reaching on this one, too. Urban knows he's got to have a couple of bookends on the offensive line. You got to have strong tackles. You got Juwan Taylor on the other side. I don't know what they're doing with him. He's still a young guy out of Florida. Cam Robinson from Alabama. Both of these guys came into the league as right off the bat, rookies, started right away. They've learned it as they go along. I see no problem with either one of these guys. If you wanted to put the franchise tag on either one of them, it would be beneficial. But Cam Robinson's going to be around for a while. He's going to make a lot of money. He's a serious player.
Yeah, so he gets it. And with that being said, we'll switch to the defensive side of the ball when we come back. Jacksonville making a lot of moves, re-signing a couple, and then bringing a bunch back, and we will bringing a bunch onto the team for the first time ever. So we'll discuss all of that in this upcoming fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You're inside the Cafe Kubal studios, listening on wakeupcalldt.com, on MixLR, and watching on Facebook Live as well as YouTube. So thank you. However you're tuning into the show, we appreciate you, and we'll be back right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacted the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
And a welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be hanging out with you inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. You're watching on Facebook Live on facebook.com/live-now-DT and on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. And like I said, Cafe Kubal studios, you can get to them on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, all of those awesome places in Syracuse, as well as 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and more to come. So we have we have a message that just came in here. Inquisitive sports fan here. With the recent retirement of the future Hall of Famer Drew Brees, who do you think has the edge of being the starting quarterback in New Orleans? I believe they asked it because they want you to talk about Jameis Winston, PJ.
Someone set me up. I'm your buddy. Someone set me up. Oh, well, I had the answer to that.
Yeah, go ahead. What's your answer?
Oh, well, it's not going to be Jameis. It's going to be Taysom Hill. They just want to sign him for $140 million. But I don't think that deal has gone through yet. Oh, poor Jameis. No one loves him. Look at Jameis has a chance to play somewhere. You just got to remember the play. You got to remember the plays and remember what to do. Jameis, you got to sharpen your pencil a little bit, buddy, and learn a little bit more about the game. You know, if you can sit behind Drew Brees for a couple of years, you should be able to know something. The possibility that he could sneak into that starting job, I mean, he's certainly going to have a better arm than Taysom Hill, but, man, Taysom Hill's a player. He can play anything, do anything. I like to see him with the ball in his hand. I'm looking forward to the Saints season. So, but Jameis, they signed Jameis too for another $1.50, something like that, and some incentives they call it, I guess. So maybe if he gets in a ball game, 50% of the time he gets another $500,000 or something like that. But I wish him well. Oh, my man Jameis, he'll be all right.
Yeah, so Jameis doing his thing and trying to figure things out. Taysom Hill is who they're looking to take back in New Orleans. And PJ, before we get back to Jacksonville for a second here, did you think that Drew Brees was hanging it up after this? And do you think New Orleans was ready for it?
Yeah. I think that most of the football world knew that he was going to retire. And, he may have taken some time to check it out, maybe call some other places, some other teams, maybe looking for something. I don't know what he was looking for exactly. He's a very, very religious man. I'm sure he sat down with his family. He's got 4 little kids, I think 3 boys and 1 little girl, and they just love the Saints. So I don't think it caught the Saints by surprise, which is why they tried to sign Taysom Hill for a larger contract and tying up Jameis for another year. So Drew Brees is a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the best that's ever played the game. I remember he played for San Diego. He did well over there and came to the New Orleans and frankly made their team. And he's the perfect representative of a professional football player. That's what you're supposed to look like, carry yourself, how to talk, and how to think. That's what it's all about, and he was that way.
You know, and Drew Brees, the last moment of him being, you know, in the dome down in New Orleans and him putting his hand up, and I think that's what I'll always remember is him putting his hand up and like shaking the hand of a fan, and like just when his hand went up in the air, I was like, he's gone. It was the way he left the building. I was like, he knows this is his last time. And I was hoping I was wrong. I want him to play for like 1,000 years because I love watching him. You know, he's played for 2 decades. But, you know, what's New Orleans going to look like now that they don't have Drew Brees? You know, Jameis is not Drew Brees, and Taysom Hill is kind of a little bit of everything. So, do they have to bring in somebody else, or are you excited to see a Taysom Hill Wildcat kind of very different look New Orleans team?
Well, it's going to have to be a different look because, you know, Drew Brees just didn't run. I mean, he ran when he had to sometimes. But Taysom Hill is he's like a Hurts, Jalen Hurts. I mean, big, strong man. There's so many things you can do with a guy like that. But again, I always harken upon the running quarterbacks. I hate to see it because I don't want to see him get hurt. Lamar Jackson, little Tyler Murray, these guys running all over the place. Even though Lamar Jackson's a bigger guy, I don't like the way the quarterback's being used because I think one play and they're out from the season. So Taysom Hill can bring a lot to the table, and you're going to see a completely different team with him because he can do so many things better than Drew Brees, except play quarterback, which Drew Brees was an expert at. If this kid learns how to play quarterback, I think the Saints will be just fine.
Yeah, you know, and to see this New Orleans as we step forward, it's going to be a challenge for Sean Payton and company because they have had the luxury of having Drew Brees for such a long time that, you know, living in a world without him is going to be strange. How much does that shake up the NFC South, PJ? Because Atlanta's trying to figure life out. They just restructured Matt Ryan's contract. So they're trying to figure things out. New Orleans doesn't have Drew Brees. Carolina's trying to figure things out. So in a yet another very smart move in the moment for Tom Brady, but also longevity, this man seems to see 47 steps ahead of everybody else. Is it not Tampa Bay's NFC South now with the fact, I mean, a couple of years ago, this is the only team that didn't make the playoffs of the 4 teams in the division, and now it looks like trying to figure it out, Tampa Bay. So, you know, did Tom Brady not see 47 steps ahead again?
I think when we saw the end of that game and Drew Brees was on the field with his family and Tom Brady came out and started throwing a little football around with the kids, I think we realized then that Drew Brees has already made up his mind that he was going to retire. I don't know why he didn't do it before then, but it was clear that watching that on the field, I realized that he's gone. So, you know, what are you going to do? I mean, Sean Payton, you're right, is going to have a hell of a job. If he can tailor an offense around Taysom Hill's abilities, which are considerable, I think they'll be okay. But they're not. None of these teams, Atlanta, Carolina, none of these teams are going to beat Brady's boys anyway. So maybe they can sneak in their second for a wild card or something. But you know, you don't know. I would love to see Drew Brees again, but he's not going to play. So he's retired.
Yeah, it's great, and it's crazy to see it. It's crazy to know it. I feel like I wasn't ready for it, so it's tough. Get back, and obviously we wish him the best, and I stick by what I said when I was a kid standing in front 20 years ago when I was 15 years old, standing in front of my TV, and they were trying to figure out in San Diego at the time with the Chargers if they were going to keep Phillip Rivers or Drew Brees. And they let Drew Brees go, and I stood in front of it, and I said, I think they made the wrong decision. And I pointed my finger at the TV, and I walked away. And Drew Brees went on to win a Super Bowl, and Phillip Rivers did not. So, not that Phillip wasn't talented, but he was kind of like a Tony Romo. Good in the regular season, not so much in the postseason. Drew Brees, to me, I will always stick by that. San Diego made a terrible, terrible decision to let him go, and he moved on to obviously find success with New Orleans in a city that is near and dear to my heart. So, with that being said, staying in the South, we're back at Jacksonville. PJ and I are talking. PJ from the Sunshine State. He's with us every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. He was off for the last couple weeks. We missed him terribly, but we know that he was getting everything, all of his paperwork in order for the Jacksonville Jaguars free agent frenzy. So, PJ, Dawon Smoot, who was drafted out of Illinois, another defensive lineman used in rotation, he was re-signed from his rookie contract. He's got a 2-year new deal with the Jaguars. What do you think about Dawon Smoot coming back?
Again, I don't see this. I don't see this being beneficial to them at all. He is only 26 years old. I mean, he's got a big upside, but maybe they have something for him there that he can befit his talent. I mean, he's an edge player, so it looks like that he'll be coming off the edge and causing a lot of havoc. This one's tough for me to understand too, but let's hope it works out for the best.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that some of this depth that they're putting on this team is going to pay off dividends, because Tyson Alualu and the Dawon Smoot, trying to see, okay, if you got the money to spend, why are you not, looking out to see what is not there, what has not been on this team when they've been losing? Remember, Dawon Smoot's been on the team while they've been losing. Tyson Alu spent a lot of time on a losing Jaguars team. So, that's kind of a question that comes up. Malcolm Brown was acquired in a trade with the New Orleans Saints, a defensive tackle. Jihad Ward, a defensive end, is coming to the team as well. Jihad Ward was with the Baltimore Ravens, and then the Jacksonville Jaguars pulled in another defensive lineman in Roy Robertson Harris, who's coming from Chicago. So, what are your thoughts on this? I mean, Roy Robertson Harris, he's on a 3-year deal. He got a high contract here, $24.4 million with $14 million in guarantees. Of all the contracts the Jaguars have signed, this has been a pretty big one here. So Roy Robertson coming to the team, Malcolm Brown as well as Jihad Ward all joining it. So with the Jaguars bringing back Tyson Alualu and re-signing Dawon Smoot, they add 3 more defensive linemen. So they have 5 defensive linemen in free agency that are either staying, coming back, or coming to the Jaguars for the first time. What are your thoughts?
Well, that's what makes me think that a lot of these players are not going to be making the team. Roy Robertson Harris is a top player, probably one of the best in the league. Great run stuffer. Who else we talk about? Oh, Malcolm Brown.
Yeah.
Malcolm Brown is another beneficial guy from the Saints. I mean, he's I look for these 2 guys really to plug right in there and start playing. So if they do what they're supposed to do. And who's the other guy we had?
The other player that we had, so Roy Robertson Harris, as well as giving you the Jihad Ward. So he's on a 1-year deal, $2.5 million with $2 million guaranteed. Jihad Ward coming to the Jaguars from Baltimore, 27 years old.
I gotta find him. Who is it?
Jihad Ward. So played with.
Yeah, I got him down there.
Okay.
So if he was a situational player for a big-time defensive team like the Ravens, then he should be able to be a situational player for the Jaguars. Again, I hate to be redundant, but there's a lot of repetitiveness here that Urban is doing with his selections here,
yeah.
His signings. I'm going to have to digest it all when it's all done. I want to probably put it on a piece of paper and just cross things out and add things and things like that. So, Jihad Ward, do we need him? I don't know. Will he be able to play? I don't know. So, I'd rather see these guys at least try to make the team.
Yeah.
and be a good part of it. If not, then they don't. I guess if they got a guarantee, they got to pay him, even though he won't play. And that doesn't make sense either. But Urban's Urban.
And we're looking at the fact that in his 5 seasons in the NFL, he has 8 sacks. He had 2 years with 3 sacks, 2018-19 with Indianapolis, and this past season, 2020-2021, with Baltimore, Jihad Ward had 3 sacks this past season, and he played 271 snaps this past season, 404 the year before. He went as a rookie. He played 636 snaps for Oakland. Was on Oakland for 2 years, then went to Indianapolis, then's been with Baltimore for 2 years. So in 5 years, he's been on 3 different teams. This is now his 4th team. And like I said, over the last couple seasons in Baltimore, has played almost 700 snaps, 4 sacks in 700 snaps, with 3 sacks this past season and 3 sacks 2 seasons before that. So, Jihad Ward, not incredible, but serviceable to give some help there on the team. And then we look at what Jacksonville has done in the secondary. I haven't signed a linebacker or anybody at this point. Sidney Jones, a corner, has re-signed with the team. Safety Ruby Ford is on a 2-year deal. And safety Rashawn Jenkins signs a 4-year, $35 million contract. Another big contract coming in for the Jacksonville Jaguars as they try to bolster up their defense. And so we look at those. Rashawn Jenkins coming from the Chargers and onto this Jacksonville Jaguars team and signing that 4-year, $35 million contract. What are your thoughts on them adding to the secondary? And we'll talk about Shaquille Griffin in a second. I saved him for last for a reason. We'll talk about him for a sec. But Rashawn Jenkins, Ruby Ford, 2 safeties, and then Sidney Jones re-signing as a corner on the team. What are your thoughts on that and the fact that Jenkins got a 4-year, $35 million contract? $16 million of it is fully guaranteed, but he can max out at almost $40 million with incentives at $39.5. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's going to be a starting safety. Let's put it that way. He's a big-time player, big-time tackler, can cover well, long arms. He will be a starter. They don't spend that kind of money for a maybe starter. This guy will play, and he'll play from the beginning on.
Yeah. So I mean, we look at him coming in, and we look at Shaquille Griffin, who I saved to last. Shaquille Griffin, coming from Seattle, played at UCF, played with his brother at UCF. A corner there, 26 years old. He is getting a $40 million contract to come to Jacksonville, $44.5 million with $29 million guaranteed, signed a 3-year. This, to me, is the biggest splash Jacksonville has had. Carlos Hyde and Tyson Alualu, underwhelming. DeJuan Smoot, underwhelming. Cam Robinson, somewhat underwhelming. Marvin Jones is a big one. I do like the Marvin Jones one, but I think the best move by Jacksonville so far in free agency is Shaquille Griffin, taking him from Seattle and getting him for the next 3 years.
Well, again, this is a big time player, Pro Bowl player, going to be a starting cornerback. So he's already got a starting safety and a starting cornerback already to go with Herndon. So these guys are Pro Bowl guys. They played a high level, and this is what I was looking for when Urban came in. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's looking for, and I like, with all the guys that we've talked to, and let's face it, it is an underwhelming free agent class. Let's put it this way. Except for these 2 guys. These 2 guys will be starters when they start the camp, when they run the camp, and when they open the season. Both of these guys will be on the field.
And that's the thing, is that Jacksonville is looking to make changes and have a different field. I think Shaquille Griffin, the energy of him coming on the field, Rashawn Jenkins, this is going to do something. Roy Robertson, Harris, Jacksonville making these moves to try and turn the tide and looking to that defensive side of the ball, because the defense did so much for them in the run that they had just a few years back. That seems like 100 years ago already, but when I was in Foxborough and they were playing for the AFC Championship against the New England Patriots, lost by 4 points. So there's something to be said about that. Hopefully the character coming in is better than the character that went out with Jalen Ramsey, Telvin Smith, Marcel Darius, and Yannick Ngakoue, who is now on his third team since leaving Jacksonville. So kind of interesting here how things shape out. But PJ, we've gotten to see some movement. Where do you want to see Jacksonville go next? What position do you want to see them go to? What do you want to see them do at this point? As some of these decisions they've made have been head scratchers, and then some of the other ones we could sit here and say, okay, you know what, the Shaquille Griffins, we can agree with that. We can agree with Rashawn Jenkins and whatnot. But what are your thoughts on where do they go from here?
Well, I'm a little concerned that they haven't addressed the offensive line yet. I know there's some players coming back that are good, usable players, but Evan Cam Robinson is the franchise selection is going to help them. I'm still looking for some offensive line help, and this is where I think Irvin is probably going to go to the draft with. Underwhelming that this draft has been, except for the ones that we talked about, the two Pro Bowl players. I got to see a little bit more from offensive line, and I'm hoping that Urban does it with a couple days he's got left, or on the draft.
Yeah, and and what he's really looking for in the draft. Is he going to go first round because he have 2 picks from the Jalen Ramsey trade to the Rams? Is he essentially going to go for Trevor Lawrence and then go for a defensive player right after? They don't need help at wide receiver. They got a strong guy at running back in James Robinson, who is undrafted, and really did a good job at whatever they saw there from him. But Olivier Vernon, Melvin Ingram, Levante David is signed up, but there's a bunch of guys that Jacksonville could go after at linebacker to build some depth there. And then on the offensive line, like you said, there's different guys that they can go to. Russell Okung is still there from Carolina. He's available out there at left tackle. They need help. They need depth at left tackle. I mean, this is just reality. They have to have depth I said left tackle. I mean, the whole offensive line needs it. I mean, there is the reality that Jacksonville spent a ton of money to bring in this guy and keep this guy and do this and do that, but they haven't been able to stay healthy. DJ Fluker's out there as well. Jacksonville is going to need to spend money on offensive linemen unless they really think that there's some great ones coming in the draft. You see them bring in all of those defensive linemen and spend that money to keep guys, bring guys back, and bring in new guys and have like this rotation and all this depth on the defensive line. But where is that on the offensive line? So that's to your point, PJ. They're spending money to bring in more defensive linemen, and then they're not addressing the offensive line, keeping 2 guys that they had but not bringing in anybody new as of yet.
That's true. I mean, well said. I want to see some movement there. I don't know if he's going to do it with the free agent signings, but I don't know if there's any good ones out there left. But he's got something up his sleeve. I wouldn't be surprised that he goes maybe 3 or 4 offensive linemen with the selection he's got. I mean, he's going to get he's going to get his quarterback. His wide receivers are set, that's for sure. It appears to me that his defensive line is set. His defensive backfield is certainly set. I like what you brought up about the linebackers. I think he needs a little bit more help there too, and certainly offensive line. So he's got some holes, and I don't know what he's going to do. But Irvin is a character, and so far, I would have to say, I would have to give him on this draft, other than Jenkins and Griffin, I would think it's probably a C draft. So, a C free agent signing class.
Yeah.
Certainly nothing more than that. Now, not taking into consideration Jenkins and Griffin. Those guys are Pro Bowl players. So, but the rest of the rest that they've got is barely a C in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, bringing back Carlos Hyde to kind of bring it all full circle for those of you tuning in now, especially if you missed anything. Carlos Hyde, Jamal Agnew.
Not at all. Carlos Hyde.
What'd you say?
I don't get Carlos Hyde at all. I mean, perhaps maybe he's a usable guy in a clubhouse. Maybe maybe that's why he's been in 5 teams in 7 years. But I don't think he's a bad guy. I don't think he's a bad character. I just don't understand why they would use a free agent signing on a mediocre backup running back when the draft will be full of them. There's other free agents out there that Urban can sign. You know, I scratched my head on a few of these, but there's another one that I don't understand at all. They got this kid, how do you pronounce it? Manhurst, Kiss Manhurst from the Panthers.
Yeah.
He's a tight end. He never played any college ball. No college experience at all because he was a basketball player. He was a strong forward. All of a sudden they throw him on a football field and he's a killer, I guess. And Panthers used him for a while. I don't know if he caught any passes, but I don't know. I don't know what Urban sees in a guy like Chris Manhurst. I don't get it. But he's smarter than I am, so I don't know.
Yeah, you know, and that was another one that came up on this list. You know, we see Jonnu Smith go to the Patriots. We'll talk about that in hour 2. Hunter Henry as well. And then Chris Manhurst going to Jacksonville from Carolina. And, the head-scratcher ones are like the 2-year contracts. Tyson Alualu, Chris Manhurst, Carlos Hyde, they all signed 2-year deals. And the question is why? So, this is going to have to be something that shakes out in camp. Maybe it makes sense. Maybe Manhurst is there to block. Who knows? But bringing back players that you had before that you let go, I mean, obviously it wasn't your staff, but if they see something in them, we'll see. But Marvin Jones Jr., Philip Dorsett, I really like those moves, and I like the Rashawn Jenkins, Shaquille Griffin. Outside of that, Roy Robertson Harris too. Outside of that, I would have to tell you that I agree with you. I think it's a C, and then bringing those other guys in gets you like a B-ish type of range, but they haven't made a hit that would make me say, oh yeah, they get an A for free agency up to this point. But with that being stated, that has been our Jacksonville Jaguars content in hour number 1 from the Sunshine State with Papa Joe, giving you our thoughts on the Jacksonville Jaguars making their moves. Once again, Chris Manhurst, tight end, running back Carlos Hyde, wide receivers Jamal Agnew, Philip Dorsett, and Marvin Jones Jr., offensive lineman Cam Robinson and Tyler Shatley, D lineman Dwan Smoot, Tyson Alualu, Jihad Ward, Malcolm Brown, and Roy Robertson Harris, and corners Sidney Jones, Shaquille Griffin, and safeties Ruby Ford and Rashawn Jenkins, all either being added, coming back, or staying with the Jaguars in free agency at this point, as they have brought all of those guys in to the new era under Urban Meyer. PJ, as always, I appreciate your time. I thank you for your expertise in going through this with us, being so close to where Jacksonville will be practicing very, very soon. And I look forward to talking with you soon. So in the meantime, please take care of my second home and be good to yourself. And obviously, I hope the best for you, Mary, Joe, and everybody down there. And I look forward to getting back on the phone with you very, very soon.
Okay, good. Have fun in the second hour. Looks like you will.
Yeah, we will. We got a lot of work to do. I'll be writing all over the board here in the studio.
All right. See you later.
Take care. That coming from Papa Joe here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So we will take a step aside for a fast break. We're getting ready for Mike Sofka right after this of Hall of Fame FantasyFootball.com. Mike will be joining me to talk about a lot of different things going on in the beautiful world of NFL free agency. We will tackle every single one of the 32 teams in the NFL. So if you think you're ready, better get that notepad out. Better get that pen out. You better be ready because there's a lot of fantasy implication moves that have happened, and you don't want to miss a second of it right after this.
Cafe Cabal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafecubal.com. Cafe Cabal, coffee for the soul.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpassnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you? The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is absolutely positively worth the drive every time. Make sure you make your way out to the Millhouse Market, but before you go there, download their app on the Google Play or Apple App Store. You will have at your fingertips every single piece of their menu, including their homemade breads and desserts, as well as their quinoa bowls, rice bowls, salads, their brick oven pizzas, my favorite, those breakfast pizzas, the brie cheese one with the bacon and egg, as well as the pear on top of it and maple syrup. Absolutely exquisite. Awesome. Awesome stuff there. And, of course, their sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. Ingrained in our community and ingrained in our taste buds, the Millhouse Market is there for you, and that app makes it so easy. Contactless pay. You can tip right on the app, and Tuesday through Sunday you can pick up your food right at the drive-through window, grab it, and go. And, of course, on the weekends you can dine in their bistro restaurant, and throughout the week, Tuesday through Sunday, you can go to their general store and get local products from local companies to further support our community that we love so very much. The Millhouse Market, for so many reasons, is worth the drive every time. And we'll see you out there. With that being stated, I will be ending this video on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live as we get set for a new one with Mr. Mike Sofka. So we'll end this one and make sure you follow us back to our next video coming up in just a moment.